This week, OpenAI has managed to stir up waves across nearly every front. A turbulent GPT-5 rollout still echoing online, controversy brewing around adult content in GPT-6, and a credibility hit that had mathematicians and competitors laughing. Sam Altman's promises of a scientific revolution, Google's quiet resurgence, and an ethics storm all collided within days, turning this moment into one of the most chaotic chapters yet in the AI race for dominance. Let's dive in. GPT-5 officially launched back in August, and the initial reactions weren't exactly glowing. People expected a generational leap, but what they got felt more like a cautious refinement. Altman later admitted that the vibes at launch were off, but claimed momentum quickly flipped once users actually tested it in the right use cases. Inside OpenAI, the story sounds a bit different from what social media portrayed. The company describes GPT-5 as a serious research assistant, an endlessly patient tutor, and an intelligent front end to search. Altman's favorite talking point is that something genuinely new has started happening, AI not just summarizing science, but actually pushing it forward. Still, that debit stream didn't exactly help the case. Graphs showed wrong data, the live demo faltered, and in the days after, the team quietly adjusted the tone and mannerisms to make GPT-5 sound warmer, less mechanical. Critics, however, drew a simpler conclusion. The upgrade felt incremental, faster, cheaper, sure, but not dramatically smarter. AI veteran Gary Marcus tore into the hype, saying the grand promises of AGI and PhD-level reasoning were nowhere to be found. Greg Brockman pushed back, arguing that the real leap came not from scaling up compute, but from reinforcement learning powered by human feedback. Researcher Mark Chen also added a detail most casual users missed. In math-intensive benchmarks, the jump was huge. GPT-5 moved from barely ranking to top 5 performance in Olympiad-level tests, though that's invisible to someone just writing emails. Altman insists GPT-6 will be significantly better than 5 and GPT-7 will leap even further. That's the rhythm he's selling, steady exponential growth, but that optimism ran into controversy fast. The conversation around GPT-6 shifted from capability to content. OpenAI confirmed plans to loosen restrictions for verified adults later this year, allowing sexually explicit text under controlled conditions. That announcement instantly split the community. Supporters praised the move, arguing adults deserve autonomy with proper safeguards. Critics called it a growth play wrapped in freedom rhetoric. The debate exposed a deeper tension inside the company between user choice and ethical responsibility. The company also teased new personalization knobs, letting users choose whether ChatGPT feels like a friend, a colleague, or a formal assistant. They insisted this isn't about engagement farming, but about user control. Still, advocacy groups weren't convinced. They warned that even with age verification and filters, synthetic intimacy can lead to real-world dependency and harm. Privacy researchers raised alarms too. If ChatGPT becomes a space where people share intimate fantasies, it instantly becomes one of the most sensitive data repositories in tech. That raises massive stakes for encryption, access control, and data audits. Meanwhile, OpenAI has also been quietly working to address bias and covert agreeableness. That tendency models have to mirror a user's politics or emotions. A new internal study used 500 prompts across 100 topics to see how far ChatGPT drifts from neutrality. The biggest red flags: adopting a political voice, escalating emotional tone, framing issues one-sidedly, dismissing user viewpoints, or dodging complex questions altogether. Surprisingly, results showed asymmetry. The model deviated more under strong liberal prompts than conservative ones. OpenAI's fix wasn't about fact-checking, it was behavioral, training the model to be a steady, neutral communicator that doesn't flatter or argue. This also ties directly into the content debate. The company can't afford a chatbot that changes its moral tone based on whoever shouts the loudest. Then came the math controversy. One OpenAI manager claimed GPT-5 had solved multiple OpenAI's problems, sparking viral excitement about a breakthrough. But mathematicians quickly called fool. Thomas Bloom, who manages the AI's problem archive, clarified that Copen simply meant he didn't know the solution. Many were already solved in existing literature. GPT-5 had rediscovered known work. The post was quietly deleted. Researchers like Nami Savis called it embarrassing, and others mocked the hype. Still, the underlying takeaway remained. GPT-5 is powerful as a literature scout. Even world-renowned mathematician Terence Tao noted that AI now speeds up searches, cross-references obscure work, and automates grunt research, though real proofs still need human vetting. That's not failure, it's focus. Meanwhile, Google resurfaced with its own reflections. At Salesforce's recent conference, Mark Benioff asked Sundar Pichai how it felt when ChatGPT stole the spotlight in late 2022. Pichai said Google had chatbots in development but didn't think they met Google bar. The day ChatGPT launched, everything changed. An internal all-code red sent teams racing to deploy prototypes. That urgency birthed Gemini. Now, Google's strategy is shifting from just a big infrastructure, in-house chips, clean energy AI data hubs, and a massive new AI center in India, their largest outside the US. PK confirmed Gemini 3.0 is due later this year, calling it a release bigger than just an app. Back at OpenAI, Altman clarified again why GPT-6 policy shift exists. He said ChatGPT was initially kept restrictive to minimize mental health harms, but that better tools now allow for nuance. Verified adults can explore explicit content safely without compromising protections for minors. Erotica, he said, was only one example of giving adults choice. Critics weren't swayed. Organizations that study digital exploitation argued that synthetic intimacy still causes harm, and guidelines across the industry remain vague. They believe OpenAI's move is more commercial than ethical, a race to capture a market competitors refuse to touch. OpenAI denies that framing, pointing to verification, opt-ins, and moderation layers as evidence of restraint. But everyone knows the truth will show only once the feature is live. Reputation quickly became the thread connecting every headline. Every new claim, every rollout now carries the shadow of that rocky GPT-5 debut. The live stream with wrong charts and an awkward demo cemented an image that the model was fast, affordable, but not fundamentally smarter. Developers later uncovered deeper improvements, especially in reasoning and efficiency. But that first impression stuck hard. Then the ERDA's controversy reinforced a narrative that OpenAI sometimes runs ahead of the facts, letting hype outpace verification. Inside the company, teams are now being told to prioritize credibility over virality. The goal is to make the next breakthrough undeniable before it hits the timeline. That reputational weight extends into politics too. The push to retrain ChatGPT into a steadier, more neutral conversationalist isn't just a technical update, it's strategic armor in an election-dense world. The model needs to communicate without sounding partisan or divisive, something no one else has fully solved. A chatbot that can stay grounded without being robotic could reshape trust in AI as a source of information. And then there's GPT-6 new content policy, the hardest moderation challenge any AI company has taken on. Relaxing restrictions at internet scale across dozens of languages and legal systems means building moderation pipelines that move as fast as the model itself. Every region has its own boundary on what's explicit, what's art, what's education. Keeping those distinctions accurate under the pressure of billions of daily interactions is a logistical nightmare. Competitors are watching closely. Anthropic and Google have both avoided stepping into adult content entirely, positioning themselves as ethics first. If OpenAI can pull this off without major fallout, it will redefine what's possible in user-directed AI. If it stumbles, the backlash could set the industry's trust clock back years. Inside OpenAI, Altman keeps repeating one message at iteration. 6 should prove the leap that 5 only hinted at, and 7 should do the same again. But this time, the proof can't just be smoother demos. It has to be capability that's visible, measurable, and responsibly deployed. The market won't judge by speed alone anymore. It's trust, transparency, and whether OpenAI can maintain control of the story before the story controls them. That shifting focus, from performance metrics to public trust, marks a turning point not just for OpenAI, but for the entire industry. The game isn't only about who builds the smartest model anymore, it's about who earns the right to define intelligence itself. And every decision from here, whether it's content moderation, model transparency, or data policy, feeds into that question. Behind the scenes, teams are reworking the infrastructure that supports GPT-6 rollout. This isn't just about speed or context window size. It's about building the systems that can handle the social, political, and ethical gravity of what's coming next. Multiple internal reports point to a focus on model accountability, tools that track where responses come from, why a model chose one reasoning path over another, and how bias mitigation actually works in real time. If they can make that process visible without compromising privacy or trade secrets, it could restore some of the credibility that took hits earlier this year. Meanwhile, investors haven't slowed down. OpenAI's valuation keeps rising, even with all the noise. The tech sector seems convinced that large-scale generative models will anchor every digital platform of the next decade. But the smarter investors are watching how OpenAI handles this next chapter, the gap between engineering ambition and ethical restraint. Because for every line of code written to expand capability, there's a policy being drafted to contain its consequences. Inside OpenAI's offices, that tension is almost cultural now. Engineers push for autonomy and experimentation. Policy teams pull for restraint and clarity. The company's challenge is to keep those forces balanced long enough to deliver genuine progress without lighting another controversy. And that's the pressure point every AI lab in the world is quietly feeling. Google, Anthropic, Meta. They're all watching OpenAI's every move. Not because they want to copy it, but because each rollout teaches them what not to do next time. The GPT-5 stumble became a case study in expectation management. The adult content debate became a blueprint for how transparency can backfire when nuance gets lost in headlines. Every mistake turns into shared industry data. And yet, the pace isn't slowing. If anything, it's accelerating. Each new model pushes the ceiling of what we thought AI could handle. Reasoning, coding, simulation, even emotional context. The real question now isn't whether AGI is coming, but how prepared society will be when it arrives faster than regulation, faster than consensus, faster than we expected. So where does all this leave us? OpenAI is standing at a crossroads, caught between innovation and accountability, speed and stability. GPT-5 proved that the world still demands something more than raw power. It wants clarity, honesty, and proof that AI progress won't come at the cost of trust. As GPT-6 and GPT-7 loom on the horizon, the stakes couldn't be higher. Each release has to do more than impress developers. It has to reassure the public that this technology is being guided, not just unleashed. Because in the end, what determines who wins this AI race won't just be compute or clever algorithms, it'll be who earns belief. For now, the next chapter is already being written. In research labs, policy rooms, and data centers lit by servers humming with possibility. The question is whether the people building these systems can keep control of the story before the story starts controlling them. That's it for this one. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure to subscribe for more deep dive updates on AI's biggest moves. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.